Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Ideologues, and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order Last Days of Europe. Yeah, man, it's been a while. This technically isn't the first series I've done. I started the, Amagadon series, which is probably going to be dropping after this, just because I haven't had time, and I figured this series is a bit more, it has a bit more impact to do because we reached 900 subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. Which thank you for that. We're one step closer onto the road to 1,000 subs. Now, of course, at 1,000 subs, we're going to be going ahead and playing good old Tabaritsky's Russia. So if you guys want that really cursed shit coming, go ahead and hit the sub button, because I think only about just shy of 40% of you guys, everyone who watches my videos, are subbed, and if we, up that and get more subs, we'll be able to get to that point. So, if you guys are interested in that at all, please go ahead and hit the sub button. That's all I ask. So, yeah, I think on the last series that we recorded, technically Magadon, but I haven't finished that, so I don't know how that goes. So before that was Smarla, that was streamed. It's been a while, but you know what? It's a new year anyway, so let's focus on the new. And among the new, we got some new music going. I got the Last Waltz of Europe music pack downloaded, and so we're playing that right now for the intro. So, keeping with the spooky vibes, the unsettling vibes. So yeah, and as I said, for 900 subs, we're going to be playing as the nation of Omsk, conceived by DB333, an old red general who went through years of pain and hatred by the hands of Nazi invaders. The Black Lead of Omsk was originally a secret military society within the Red Army ranks, but sought to overturn the incompetent communist leadership and commit the whole Russian people to the destruction of the Low Germans, whatever cost. Following the failed coup against the Soviet government in Tyumen and the retreat to Omsk, the Black League has become entrenched in its extremist vision and seeks nothing but to bring the harsh vengeance upon all enemies of Russia and ensure that the motherland will never be threatened again. So, we start off in a region of the world we have not played in before, Western Siberia. And we all know the funny shovel memes. You've probably seen a few of my series at this point where Omsk unifies West Siberia and then falls apart. Omsk, I believe, is one of the hardest unifiers to pull off. So it's going to be a bit of an uphill struggle, but if we're able to do it, man, yeah, we'll get revenge. What can I say? So let's go ahead and start her up. And I'll go ahead and start my timer. Someone snap me. Not a big concern. I'll worry about that later. Come on, game. You got this. You got this. New year, new series. Same loading screen issues. What can I say? Any second now. Come on. There we go. The brightest flame had been flushed out by the darkest night, until all who remained were the children, a misguided folk clinging to dead ideologies and false hopes. Their plans foiled each other until its successors slew itself, and out of a corpse the Black League was born. The Russian people had fortified their chance at prosperity, now thrown into a pit by the Teutonic aggressor. doomed to witness generations waste away until justice be restored. The future is dead, but within the citadel city of Omsk burns a flicker of hope. Hope that one day the Russian people will climb out of the grave into the light. The great trial approaches, but everyone else is blind to it. Foretold by DB333, Karbyshev, whose dying eyes now gaze upon a monster birthed from the darkest night. The officers of the Black League, led by Dmitry Azov, rally for the last battle that will determine the fate of the world. When the sun sets, men speak in hushed tones across Siberia, telling of a black spot on the map, from which emerges ominous clouds, masking the movements of soldiers without lines, conditioned to ruthlessly execute anyone who stands in the way of national reclamation. Indeed, the philosophy of the League preaches national survival. The Russian people must be prepared for anything, be it the inevitable great trial or a nuclear apocalypse. Unbeknownst to many, however, the new guard of Omsk spirals further and further from Karbyshev's ideals. Within their iron hearts burns a passion for revenge on an unsurpassed scale. If the Black League is to remain stable, it must fuel the pyre with tales of conquest, for momentum is of the essence. The very concept of civilian must be stamped out until every plowshare becomes a sword. The great trial does not wait. Omsk is a city surrounded by enemies, communist and human, the renegade Red Army in Sverdlovsk, not to mention the various warlords around old Russia. Will the Black League crash and burn like its predecessors? Or will the night grow darker? So we have a couple features we can go ahead for this nation. We can go ahead and manage squabbling cliques of officers while fending off attacks from all sides and preparing to reunite all of Russia. And we can reshape the very psyche of the Russian population to be prepared for total war. The great trial awaits, and vengeance awaits. Destiny lies ahead. So let's take a look at everything right now. So we have the Black League, which is an ultra-nationalist organization for the most part. We have a small despotist offshoot, and we have some communist support as well. So we are led by Dmitry Karbyshev, the Cage General. Dmitry Mikhailovich Karbyshev's story is a tragic one, full of betrayal, loss, and fury. He first fought for the Tsar in the Great War, joined the Red Guards in the Civil War, and returned to duty when the motherland was invaded once more. Captured by the Germans and sent to a string of concentration camps, Karbyshev was beaten, tortured, but left to die. But he never lost hope in his people. Eventually, he and a few others escaped the death camps and fled east, past the Union's weakening grip, and into the arms of the Tsar Kaganovich's West Siberian People's Republic. Embittered by years of suffering, Karbyshev resolved to never let Russia see such torment again. He began planning for what he called the Great Trial, the coming final conflict with Germany that would seal Russia's fate. Gathering many like-minded comrades to his cause, he soon rebelled against Kaganovich and seized Omsk, turning the city into a fortress where he could prepare in peace. Karbyshev proclaimed the rule of the All-Russian Black League, the only organization he saw fit to guide Russia through what lay ahead. But time wore on, and distrust grew among his once loyal officers. Now he can do naught but watch vultures circling above, and weep at how those he hoped to save fight each other instead of the enemy. The Great Trial looms ever closer, and unless somebody worthy takes up his mantle, Dmitry Karbyshev fears Russia will be doomed when it arrives. So we start off with the Luftwaffe terror bombings, which is never good. We are fueled by hate. During the last trial, each of us saw and faced hell on earth. The Nazis razed our cities, slaughtered our families, and shattered the union we worked so hard to build. And as the world unraveled around us, we resolved to never again allow the Teuton to despoil our homes. Never again would we tremble in fear as the jackboot trampled on our soil. Whatever the cost, whatever sacrifice, the day of the great trial will come. And on that day, they will fear our terrible vengeance. Moving on from there, we have nothing left to lose. Our backs are pressed against the wall, our supplies run low, and yet morale is as high as ever. Each and every son and daughter of the Black League knows their mission and knows they have nothing to lose, for the last trial already robbed them of everything. The simple truth is to transform the League from a band of disgruntled veterans to an army with discipline unparalleled in the Russian wastes. We will survive our current dire circumstance. We will rebuild what was lost. And when the great trial comes, we will repay our enemies for every life lost. And then moving on, a puppet in all but name, which is not nice, actually. That's pretty crappy. It's a sad fact that the founder of the Black League, General Karbyshev, is not as young as he once was. As he's aged, though, his mind is as sharp as ever. His body has become frail and weak. The people weep to know that he is not long for this world, and yet not all is lost. The loyal sons and daughters of the Black League's officer corps are glad to receive and deliver General Karbyshev's orders, and even to reinterpret them when the general's mind has slipped. It is a service that most are glad to perform, no matter how much the general begs for it to end. So take a look at the ministers real quick. Our head of government is Dmitry Yazov. We have Viktor Abakumov as a foreign minister, Alexander Karkardin as an economic minister, which is not nice at all. Abakumov is okay. Yazov is kind of crap. And then we have Konstantin Valukin, which is actually not too bad as a security minister. But yeah, we have 4 troops, it looks like, which is not bad at all. Field Marshal Karbyshev. And for a general, we'll go with Yazov. So research, new generation of rifles. That's going to take a full year, but we'll wait for that. We can wait. And then improved computing machines. We got free civilian factories, which will build some civilian factories in quite appropriately. Our construction speed is horrible, my god, but that's something we'll deal with in time. And we got some solid military factories, actually. Let's get some infantry equipment, support equipment, artillery, probably motorized. We don't need motorized. Let's try anti-tank then. Yeah, there we go. And so we can go ahead and begin with our focuses, starting with the last days of Comrade Karbyshev. Dmitry Mikhailovich Karbyshev is dying. This is a fact that nearly everyone in the Black League is keenly aware of, and yet life continues as usual. The soldiers march through the streets of Omsk. The factories churn out as many guns as they can between bombings, and much to Karbyshev's chagrin, the officers bicker as always. Comrade Karbyshev does not have long, and yet his energy does not seem to have left him, even in his last days. The general plans to tackle some of the greater problems facing Omsk, with the help of his closest confidant and student, Comrade Yazov. With his aid and General Karbyshev's characteristic zeal, the Black League's course will be righted, and we will march ever forward along the path to the great trial. It's time to take care of some unfinished business. So I want to look at some of our stuff. We have kill them all for military. Women have military assistance. We have service by requirement, basic training, segregated regiments, no draft exemptions. Army professionalism is political interference, which is actually, compared to the others, not too bad. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and get the speed going. Fragmentary text. Site 119. Kozvinsky substructure. Recovered by Northern Expedition 31 of a City's Ministry of Antiques. Approximate date OAC. We were a generation that time forgot. Born in the ashes of our fathers, to their commands we marched. We were young, and without choice, led forward by deathless warriors. Taking the field to settle their accounts, shot on the starting gun. A blinding light, and the skies collapse beneath the weight of our sins. Our heroes unmasked as tricks of the light. So go tell our Spartans, aslumber in their steely graves, that we, obedient to their laws, here lie, nameless, of Cadre 130756. Not even the gods fight against necessity. Our poverty rate is going down pretty quickly. That's not nice at all. Though if we could get to the Spartan ideal, that might not be too bad, actually. Hypothetically. So it's an interesting kind of balance out. The Nazis won the space race, which is not very nice. Now we're going to have to purge the moon. I'll pause and let you guys read this because I read this a couple times already. And yeah. Moving on from here. Let's go ahead and learn from the lessons of the first trial. The first trial ended as the Teutons burned our homes, tore through our defenses, slaughtered our soldiers, and bombed our cities to rubble. In the end, millions of Russians lay dead or enslaved. Many within Russia feebly wonder how this could have been. They wonder what terrible weapons or blessings the Germans had that gave them their victory. General Karbyshev and Comrade Yazov, however, know the truth. The Germans accomplished this terrible victory through complete military supremacy, through both speed and power. As loath as we are to admit it, the old tactics are perhaps no longer applicable. It is time for a new way. If we are to defeat the enemy, we must use his own strategy against him. It was one thing to be, thought the old general, to dread the failure of your greatest aspirations, to know the quiet burning of doubt in your gut. But it was quite another thing to look the twisted remnants of your dreams in the eye every day, to be constantly greeted by people tripping over each other, to essentially praise the vision and beauty of your own worst nightmare. General Dmitry Mikhailovich Karbyshev, Glavkorek of the Black League, had clung to life on this earth for 82 years now, and he had certainly seen worse. He lost friends to frostbite, wolves, and concentration camp guards on the 3,000-kilometer overland trek from Nazi captivity in Mauthausen that had made him a living legend among Russians. He was a man who could bear torture, both physical and emotional, but he could feel what was coming. It was plain for him to see. He saw it in the eyes of every fresh-faced youth cadre. Recruit. In every projection of the next 5 years' industrial production, there was a simple fact shining like the sun in every geopolitical analysis of the coming trial, in every snippet of hopeful speculation on the future. Karbyshev's watch was coming to an end. The thought of death, a final rest from all his earthly toil, did not faze him, but when he looked at the nightmare around him, he felt a panicky, hot-headed sense of urgency. His beloved league had grown corrupt and cruel, ruled by officer cliques and cronyism, while innocents labored away in the redemptionary brigades. As painful as it would be, he had to try one last time. He had to address his sin, his unfinished work on this cursed planet, before the long night claimed him. Once more, unto the breach. So yeah, this isn't exactly a happy, blessed series, if you guys can't tell. Although, killing the Germans would be nice. Pavel Odar. Huh? If you want it, come and take it. How about that? Let's go ahead and scavenge for loot. We will not back down so easily. In fact, I gotta wonder what you were thinking there. Why did you think that was a good idea? That was a horrible idea. Although it did kind of fuck with my army stuff, so maybe it wasn't a horrible idea. I'll give you that. If that was what you were going for, good for you. You did it. So yeah, got Karbyshev, Yazov, a couple other guys. Some solid generals, it looks like, actually. Next, we'll go ahead and go with the Steel Heart of Omsk. While the current geographical situation is not ideal, Omsk does have one great strength that will give us this edge over our rivals in the region: industry. Factories pepper the landscape, and across Omsk, workers labor to create as many weapons and defense as possible. Bukharin did one thing right, even as in his ignorance. It was providing us with the tools of vengeance. Yet this must be expanded on. The construction of new arms factories will begin effective immediately, and within a matter of months, new weapons will begin to pour from Omsk's steel heart to the arms of our soldiers. Sounds good to me. More building slots, more military factories. That sounds pretty damn good right about now. I'll take that. So we're gonna want to save political power. That's gonna be our big thing. I know. Because there's gonna be once we reunify West Siberia, there's gonna be some issues. As they've been trained to do, the cadres scattered quickly, and the German bombers were observed approaching the outskirts of Omsk, moving in ordered groupings to their assigned shelters and positions, and providing their identification, in particulars, as they entered. 201, they all hated the Germans high above with a burning passion, but they knew that, until their preparations for the trial to come had completed, they were near powerless to strike back at them. So they sat and hated, in disciplined silence, as the tremors of the bombs reverberated through the shelter's walls. Suddenly, however, the bombs had stopped, and the distant report of machine gun fire could be heard. One cadre, assigned to observation duty, moved to the shelter's periscope, and after a moment, and with the excitement breaking through the calm demeanor usually demanded, reported that the bombers were under attack by fighter aircraft. The other cadres fought to remain still, though they all knew what that meant. The aviators had arrived. Their instruction, reinforced daily, was clear. The aviators were strictly unreliable elements. But even when delivered by dedicated officers, their enthusiasm with which lessons against the failures of the North or the great enemy to the West were delivered was not present. None really held the aviators in their hearts of hearts as an enemy. How could they, when they fought and killed Germans on a near-daily basis? Several minutes later, the observer reported a damaged German bomber approaching the ground on a trajectory for a crash landing, and the officer in charge asked for volunteers to venture out during the raid in search of prisoners. Every cadre present stood without hesitation, despite the danger. The aviators might have shot the bomber down, but the task was not finished yet. If any German had survived, they would soon wish they hadn't. Unlike all the others, they had not abandoned Russia. So here we are. What are we going to want to build? We have to focus on equipment. The only thing we need to teach our children is how to aim their rifles at Germans. That's really it. We need to teach our workers how to produce the guns, to point at the Germans, to shoot them. That's really the most important stuff we have to do, ultimately. The steel heart of Omsk. The din of an arms plant is loud. Lathes, stamps, cast, all making an unearthly din as they churn out the guns that would shortly be needed. Under normal circumstances, this would be irritating, but manufacturing in Omsk meant manufacturing underground, safe from German bombers and Russian raiders. This meant every vibration shook the whole plant, every sound echoed off of vast concrete walls. The pain of being in the swirling mess of industry was doubled. This was necessary. Every industrial cadre assigned to each underground plant was told this, and knew this. For if they were to survive the next war, nothing could be spared in the defense of the factories. They would be the engine that keeps Omsk running. Deeper, deeper into the earth. One off-map civilian factory and 750 units of Omsk infantry equipment is added to stockpile. Very, very nice. When Jiang defeated the People's Front. And then we can go ahead. Let's go against the Old Guard. When General Karbyshev first dreamt up the League during the last trial, he envisioned a disciplined army, ready to stand for Russia at any moment, unbroken and united in their purpose. Of late, it seems the officers of the League have lost their way. Bickering and disunity has become a way of life for the League, even to the point where some question the General's authority. But this will end immediately. At once, measures will be taken to ensure that the Old Guard are cowed and brought back to the fold, by force if necessary. The General knows this will be an uphill battle, but in the end, it is one that must be fought, for if Russia cannot trust its eldest son, who can it trust? Exactly. We'll get working on probably artillery, and then a bit of anti-tank as well. We're running very low on steel, which is a shame. But we'll have to make do with what we got. We could try to raid these guys. Perhaps that might not be a bad idea. Like, I don't know. There goes Wholesome Chungus Man. There was no one to blame but Martin himself. This is what he thought as his Me-264 fell out of the sky. He had been careless. He had flown missions over Omsk dozens if not hundreds of times, which was a feat in and of itself, considering his 264 was older than he was and handled like a brick, but his recklessness had finally caught up with him. All it took was 2 good hits, and the left wing was sheared clean off the side of the fuselage. The plane started tumbling downward. Downward? I think it's supposed to be downward. He could barely hear his own screams over the thunder of anti-aircraft fire. He blacked out before he hit the ground, the waste of the Russia reaching up to claim him. Martin awoke face to face with his co-pilot, Johann. His face was caved in. Martin screamed and sat up. His eyes widened. The Me-264 was a fiery wreck in front of him. Hellish red and white flames licked at a tangled spire of metal. Heat rolled against his skin. Next to him, his crew was laid out on the ground, their corpses mangled from the crash. A small crowd was assembled in front of the wreck, silhouetted against the flames. Some of them turned their heads in his direction. His breath hitched. He scrambled to his feet and tried to run, but the intense pain blossomed in his knee, and he cried out, falling back to the ground. They were coming. "Wait! Wait!" he said, and turned on his back. 3 of the silhouettes rushed towards him. Their bayonets gleamed with murderous intent. He pulled himself backward with his arms, palming fistfuls of dirt and throwing it at them. "Wait! Stop! Stop, please!" One of the silhouettes, no, a man in a black uniform, brought his boot down on Martin's face. He heard a crunch, and nothing more. Death is occasionally a mercy. I'm surprised our war support is this low right now. We have slavery. Uh-oh. And no healthcare. Okay, that's starting to make more sense. Fuck. Man. Yeah, shit, that's making more sense now. Karbyshev had thought back to the birth of the Black League a lot more recently. Perhaps it was because he knew things were coming to an end soon. For himself, anyway. He smiled at the thought of those early days when his vision had been so clear and the path towards national redemption seemed so obvious. He was overjoyed when many of his officers and old comrades volunteered to join the League and help him save the motherland. If only they'd stayed true to their word and not fallen astray. Perhaps, even then, they had simply concealed their cynicism from him, and had always planned to use the League as a path to personal health and power. The old generals prayed it wasn't so. He didn't want to consider that many of his friends might have always been this corrupt and power-hungry. But then, if the League had made them this way, was that any better? He had spoken of Karkardin yesterday about the growing corruption in the League and what might be done about it. As always happened, when he brought these things to Alexander, he was gently chastised for making mountains out of molehills. when there was more important issues to focus on. He didn't have a heart to tell Alexander he knew he was skimming money off the budget for his personal projects. It wouldn't have mattered if he had. Just like all of Karbyshev's other old friends, Karkudin seemed to think of him as more of a puppet than an ally these days. Someone to prop up for the League while profiting off its members. Karbyshev inserted a piece of paper into his typewriter and began to write another memo laying out a plan to eliminate corruption in the League's ranks. He knew it would be ignored. All of the others had been, but he could not give up now. His motherland needed him, and he would not abandon her, even if everyone else had. There is no rest for the weary. Shit, we lose political power? That's not nice. Let's go ahead and... Let's review the Redemptionary Brigades. General Karbyshev designated the Redemptionary Brigades as a means for those who had served the enemy in the past to cleanse themselves. The sons and daughters of those groups that betrayed the motherland in the last trial would earn their salvation through fire and war. Unfortunately, this current state of the League had betrayed this noble purpose. These days, the brigades served as a tool of the various cliques that permeate the once great League. General Karbyshev has seen this and will thus end it. The Redemptionary Brigades will receive new training methods, better equipment, but harsher standards. Their officer corps will be overhauled into truly loyal children of the Black League, and will ensure only those who truly deserve redemption will serve the brigades through rigorous trials. When the day of the great trial comes, the Redemptionary Brigades will march with us, side by side, in defense of Russia. Indeed. How are we doing time-wise? We have another 15 minutes. Who snapped me? I know when I need to message urgently. Yeah, all good there. Curious, what's Mario up to? Military holdouts. No, they're holding out hope in Sverdlovsk, which is rich coming from them. Guns for the men. You don't need to salute me, Karbyshev said softly. You're not legally part of the League after all. The Ukrainian foreman, standing before him, lowered his head slowly, his eyes seeming to pulse with nervous energy. The scores of soot-stained men who stood behind him, the work boots half buried in a mixture of snowmelt and mud. They crowd around Karbyshev and his meager retinue of bodyguards, eyeing the old soldier with wariness and indescribable emotion that felt almost like hunger. I'm not here to punish you, Karbyshev said, as loud as he dared. I want to give you a chance at redemption, a voice piped up from the crowd. The last time we were offered redemption by a lot, 15 men died in a cave-in. Starting to seem like there's not a whole lot of difference between the two. The foreman's face turned bleach white, his hands reflexively clenching. But he braced himself for punishment that never came. Real redemption, Karbyshev answered. Now the same old lie you've been getting from the officers. Actual freedom. The crowd collectively murmured. Whatever you did to get here, it'll be wiped away, and you'll be equal with us. A lot of you never or even did anything worth getting here. We're going to change the system. But I need your help. What on earth could you need us for? Lose some political power, reviewing the Redemptionary Brigades. Let's try to remember the oath. Every brother of the Black League knows the words of the oath by heart. I believe, before all else, in Russia, one, indivisible, and invincible. I believe in my own strength, in the strength of my comrades. I reject the lies of the first trial, and embrace the Black League as Russia's one and only salvation in the coming trial. When the day of the great trial comes, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with my comrades. I will face the enemy without fear, and I will put my nation before my own life. I will be the sword and shield of Russia, by which justice will be done for the fallen. I swear this oath by my sacred motherland. Let's start. Getting a bit of growth here and there. You might want to raid. I think we'll raid the Republican Kazakhs. Try that out for size. It looks like they're already being raided. May God help us all. They refuse tribute? Okay. I mean, that's what you guys want to do. That's how you want to play it. So here comes their one guy. But, yeah, they're falling apart. Well, they have another guy, apparently. Let's go ahead and trust in Yazov. Dmitry Timofeyevich Yazov, long General Karbashev's favorite student, has of late been the only man of the Black League the general finds trustworthy. A brilliant strategist dedicated to the ideals of a league, and loyal to his mentor, General Karbyshev believes it is well past time Yazov came into his own. Yazov will be given heightened responsibilities across the league as a whole, including supervision over the redemptionary brigades, the reforms of which he seeks to spearhead. General Karbyshev will find himself hopeful for the first time in years, for if anyone can see his vision through to the end, it is Yazov. Fyodor had heard stories about Omsk. Granted, they weren't good ones by any rational standards. In Omsk, it was said that people lived in fear not of bandits, but of policemen. That the children of soldiers lived in elaborate air raid shelters beneath the ground and dined on army rations and canned meat package when Bukharin still ruled Russia. For a free man, or even one fortunate enough to be born and raised in one of the few countries on the globe that could count itself as being at least somewhat free and stable, such a proposition would seem hellish. But for a man who had seen his childhood home torched by 2 different German armies, his friends and neighbors bayoneted by bandits, and who held on to his 2 grandchildren as his last worldly possessions of any import, such a deal did not seem so bad. It was true, he reasoned, that tyranny was odious. But in his painful life, which had seen the rise and fall of no less than 3 different Russias, he had known tyranny's cold hand in many forms. He had learned to accept it, and live alongside it, regarding it as simply a shadow in the corner, a thing to be acknowledged and worked around, and little else. And so as Fyodor's refugee caravan approached the checkpoint at the port border of Omsk Black League, wind whipping at the ragged coat he had stretched over himself and his grandchildren, he felt only security and a sense of relief when black uniformed men with guns approached them. His journey across the broken homeland had taken them through countless governments and their hollow promises. Time and time again, their lives had nearly taken away from them all he cared for. But here was a government which promised only one thing: survival. And that was good enough for him. Welcome to Omsk, fellow countrymen. More manpower, which is nice. Our raid has been successful. Beautiful. And we'll get some new workers going. Food for the hungry. Guess we're not going starving tonight, which is very nice. Mongolian Civil War. Some vetoes of the Civil Rights Act. We'll see what ends up happening in the States then. Might get wholesome Kennedy man. NPP left is getting a bit of power, which is interesting. We'll go ahead and get some advanced computing machines. It was an early morning in Omsk. Yazov, preceded by his steward, sat down by the training grounds of the League. Out there in a blur in the distance, the shouts of men and gunfire rang in the air. Today, too, was a day of preparation for the great trial. Near him was an empty chair. Comrade Karbyshev was not here today. Yazov shook his head, brushing his face with a gloved hand. Thoughts of betrayal assailed the protege's mind, only for a slight tremor in the air to banish them. "Your coffee, sir?" the steward said. Yazov gave him a faint smile. "Banish those forms of address, comrade. We're all equal to our duty. But yes, for now I will take coffee." The steward gave a little bow, perhaps unused to the notion of equality among the ranks of a league, and laid down his cup in front of him. In the chilly morning air, wisps of steam trailed the jet-black liquid. Yazov took it and held it in front of him, staring down at the cold, hard-set eyes reflected in those dark depths, letting the scent immerse him in the memories of things long gone. He took the rim to his lips and drank. They flooded him in an instant, the rich aroma guiding him through a whirling pool in his mind. He remembered his first taste of coffee from before the fall. Then he came upon a scene of comrades breaking bread in the freezing weather of the winter battlefield, hearing the firewood crackle. He let an unseen tear gather in his eye. They're all dead now. Yazov put his cup down, gritting his teeth. He held it out for a few moments, pondering whether to finish his drink. Against common sense, he did. He found the fragrance guiding him away from the turmoil of a great patriotic war. Yazov drifted where it led him. Dearest Omsk, dearest homeland. He had sat in the cramped and huddled camps as refugees fleeing the last of the blood of a German spilled, staining even half the world away. He remembered the harsh and bitter coffee of that place, the dank and sour smell that surrounded him. At that precipice, the coffee ceased to be. Yazov stared at the bottom of the cup and smirked. Now was not the time to mourn, but the time for revenge. The great trial above all. Let's go ahead and try to enforce some discipline. What the general's reforms have yet perhaps not have a desired effect as of yet. He's not an idle man and will not allow himself to sink into inaction and despair. Many low-level commanders within the league report a sense of indiscipline and cowardice among the lower ranks. Infighting has become a commonplace among the men and women that reportedly rush as saviors. Perhaps a stronger approach is needed. General Karbyshev will work to enforce greater discipline in the ranks. Drills will be held twice a day, meals will be shortened to 10 minutes, and dissenters will be given harsh punishments. The officers need only obey their orders. We could purchase some guns, but I don't trust Litos, so I won't do it. They had tracked the man for days. He was elusive and was very clearly familiar with the terrain of West Siberia. This only made Victor's blood boil all the more. They'd recognized his worn uniform on sight. A German dog of the Wehrmacht, no less, had dared to pollute Russia's soil with his filth. The most frustrating and infuriating thing of all in Victor's mind was the man's actions. Unlike the filth who bombed the countryside, he was helping people. He defended families from bandits and slavers, and he aided farmers for only a pittance of food. The bastard thought he could be redeemed, but Victor knew that the only redemption the pig would have was death. Victor and his men caught up with the man the next day and immediately began their attack. Despite having the element of surprise, Victor found that the stranger was quickly turning the tables on them. Already 3 of his men were dead, and another 2 were wounded. He would not give up, however, until the bastard was dead. Victor threw himself at the man, wrestling him to the ground and stabbing at him with his knife. However, before he could gut the pig, he felt a burning in his stomach. Victor looked down at the cold steel embedded in his gut and slumped over. The German got to his feet and approached him as he bled out into the snow. He reached down and dragged him to a tree. Victor tried to fight back, but he could hardly move. Then the man began to tend to his wounds, cleaning it and applying bandages. When he finished, he stood and began to walk away. Victor gathered himself enough to force out his words. "This changes nothing, German pig. You deserve death for your crimes. All of you bastards do." "I know." Comrade Dmitry Timofeyek, do you ever get the feeling that you're being watched? His mentor's sudden question caught Yazov off guard. Karbyshev's words hanging in a lukewarm stare over the bunker. "Do you mean that internal security?" Yazov began to reply. "Not in that sense," Karbyshev added, politely cutting him off. The old man struggled for a moment to find the right words. What I mean is a sense that your actions are consequential in some respect, that we are being examined by those in the future. A sense of destiny, you mean? I would certainly hope so. We are Russia's destiny. Zov seemed poised to launch into another round of practice slogans, but stopped short. No. Quite the opposite, Karbyshev replied, his eyes growing distant and motionless. Have you ever felt the sense that you're nothing more than an insect being stared at through a magnifying glass? That people in the future, on the other side of a looking glass of time, are looking back on your choices at the fateful point where everything went wrong? Yazov hunched forward slightly, as if to speak up, but Karbyshev simply continued, seemingly unaware. The other night, Dmitri, I had a dream. A dream of some time ago, time long before ours, where the people of the far future looked down on ruined and desolate Russia and judged us, the League, as being the ones who led into ruin. I'm not a superstitious man. I'm not scared because I thought the dream was fated to happen. I'm scared because it was believable. Yazov tried to think of something to say in response, tamping down a wave of purposeless doubt in his mind. He had purpose. This was a just cause. No way but forward. In a moment, Karbyshev would surely turn away from the topic. Something where Yazov could just curl up and once more be a gear in the machine. But Karbyshev didn't. He paused and looked Yazov straight in the eyes. What I'm saying is, do you ever wonder if we're wrong? What are we going to want to build? The elite infantry might be an okay bet. Cannot train a new special template division. Never mind, we can't train those guys. Let's train some normal divisions then. We'll get one guy going. We're going to need a lot of stuff. They came just after sunset, the dry wind carrying their shouts and the clatter of hooves. Half of them didn't even know the name of the town, but that wasn't the point. They were there for plunder, pure and simple. Such a barbaric event would be unthinkable in Lake's core, around Omsk itself, or in any of the stateless major cities. But on these windswept steppes, where borders were just an idea, the League's presence in small villages often amounted to little more than a few under-equipped frontline or garrison cadres. For what it was worth, they acquitted themselves well. The men and women of cadres 103-858, 109-663, and 109-667 fought as best as they could to protect the agricultural workers stationed there. But they were caught off guard by the bandits' brazen raid. But by about 9 that night, it was all over, their lives either already being snuffed out or draining fast away. But the next day, they would be added to the ever-growing list of martyrs. And High Command would be charged with dealing with the situation. We find the people who did this and make them pay. Ooh. It looks like I have to cut it here. Oh god, it is snowing outside. Oh no. I want to go for a walk too. Fuck. Yeah, that's all the time I have, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. Like this video, go and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave it in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat or play games, I have a Patreon, a Discord down link below. If you want to send a few bucks my way every month, I have a Patreon. If you want to see me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch, all of which are down links below. Thank you as always for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.